Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into a completely high-stakes world where biology, economics, and clinical science collide, and that is animal breeding. Whether we're talking about a prize-winning stallion, a rugged rangeland bull, or a top-tier ram, the reproductive success of just a single male can literally dictate the financial future of an entire agricultural operation. But, figuring out if that male is actually up to the task, it isn't as simple as just looking at him. So, in this explainer, we're going to frame the overall approach exactly as the veterinarian sees it in the field, as a clinical detective. We are going to solve a complex biological mystery by piecing together clues from the animal's environment, his history, his physical structure, and finally, the microscopic truth of his cells. So let's dive right in. What's the absolute most fundamental question a client asks their vet? Is this male truly fertile? Now, you might think the answer is a straightforward yes or no, right? He either can sire offspring or he can't. Well, we need to challenge that assumption right out of the gate, because the reality of biological reproduction is far more nuanced. Here is the crucial point. Fertility is a continuous variable. It's not just a simple binary switch. It actually exists on a spectrum ranging from completely sterile, which surprisingly is quite rare, to infertile, then to severely, moderately, or mildly subfertile, all the way up to highly fertile. A subfertile male is actually the most common problem veterinarians detect. These males can still impregnate females and sire offspring, sure, but they take significantly longer and require far more attempts to do it. And that completely disrupts a tight, efficient breeding season. Here's our roadmap for conducting a breeding soundness examination today. 1. The big picture. 2. History and setup. 3. General exam. 4. Genital exam. 5. Semen evaluation. And 6. Final determination. Step 1. The big picture. What actually makes a fertile male? To do his job effectively, a male literally has to check all 4 of these independent functional boxes. First, he has to maintain his own clinical health in his environment. Second, he needs the physical ability and libido to locate females in heat, mount them, and normally serve them. Third, he must repeatedly ejaculate a sufficient number of viable, normal spermatozoa. And fourth, those sperm must result in clinically normal offspring. If any single one of these capabilities fails, the male's fertility just plummets. Which brings us to a massive misconception we've got to bust right now. A lot of people think a breeding soundness exam only looks at the reproductive tract, but the reality, we are examining the animal's overall clinical health. Here's a perfect example. Let's say a bull has an acute case of foot rot. Because of that extreme pain, his body releases inflammatory cytokines and spikes systemic corticosteroids. Those are stress hormones. Those hormones directly attack and suppress his spermatogenesis. The pain in his foot literally destroys the quality of his semen. It's wild, but it proves that absolutely everything in the biological system is connected. Step 2. History and setup. Time to gather some clues. We review these specific historical steps because timing is everything. We check his age because a young male might have hit puberty, but he still needs several months for his sperm production to fully mature. We also investigate any illnesses or fevers specifically in the past 2 to 4 months. Now, why that exact window? Because that aligns perfectly with the timeline of a sperm production wave. An illness from 3 months ago could just be showing up as damaged sperm today. And we review diet, because massive weight fluctuations severely impact reproductive function. Step 3. General physical exam. Building the foundation. When evaluating body condition, the golden rule is fit, not fat. Body condition is absolutely critical here. If a male is obese, fat deposits in the neck of the scrotum actually insulate the testes, causing poor thermoregulation. Basically, the testes get too hot and the sperm die. Conversely, an overly thin animal suffering from poor nutrition risks severe testicular degeneration. They really need to be in peak athletic condition. We also have to assess their movement. Think of their gait like the foundation of a house. We observe them at a walk and a trot. If a bull has excessively straight hind limbs or a hoof deformity like a scissor claw, that foundation is structurally flawed. They simply cannot bear the massive weight required to mount and mate effectively, especially if they're expected to serve dozens of females out in a pasture. We also assess temperament here. Aggressive behavior is a huge safety risk, and actually, it's often a heritable trait we really don't want passed on. Step 4. Genital exam. Now we're zooming in on the components of the examination. This is where we bring in some incredible modern tech. We use ultrasound to literally peer inside the testes, looking for unseen abnormalities like calcifications or abscesses. Simultaneously, we're physically palpating the tract. We want to feel a thin, healthy, silky scrotum that regulates heat perfectly. We're feeling the testes for a firm, resilient tone. We actually often score it on a 1 to 5 scale. A healthy testis should feel firm and springy, which means the seminiferous tubules inside are fully functional. On the flip side, a soft, spongy testis indicates severe degeneration. Now, check out this specialized tool, a tension tape. Measuring scrotal circumference isn't just about size for the sake of size. It's a heavily relied upon metric because it is highly correlated with daily sperm output. Using a regulated tension tape ensures the measurement is totally standardized. For a young bull, hitting a certain scrotal circumference tells us he's reached puberty, and it's even a highly heritable trait that predicts the fertility of his future female offspring. How cool is that? Step 5. Semen evaluation. Collection and assessment to find the microscopic truth. To get that microscopic truth, we have 2 main practical collection tools, each with distinct advantages. First, the artificial vagina, or AV. It requires a trained animal and a teaser mount, and the AV has to be kept precisely between 45 and 48 degrees Celsius. The huge advantage? It lets us directly observe the animal's libido and serving ability. Then we have the electroejaculator. This is an incredible tool that uses a low-level electrical sine wave to stimulate nerves. It lets us safely collect a viable semen sample from completely untrained, rangeland animals without ever needing them to mount. Once we have the sample, we dive into the semen examination based on species-specific standards. And wow, the biological differences across domestic species are staggering. Just to put this in perspective, look at the massive 250 milliliter fluid volume of a boar's ejaculate, compared to the extremely dense, relatively small ejaculate of a ram, packing 2,000 million sperm per milliliter. Our microscopic evaluation ensures they meet the absolute minimum thresholds for motility, which is how well the sperm swim, and morphology, meaning they're structurally normal. But here is the catch. Getting a great sample means absolutely nothing if you ruin it before looking at it. Spermatozoa are unbelievably fragile outside the body. The vet essentially has to take the laboratory directly into the field. This means following strict practical considerations, keeping all slides and equipment meticulously warm, right around 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, avoiding any sudden temperature drops known as cold shock, keeping the sample perfectly dry from water or urine, and examining motility immediately under a microscope before the environment degrades the cells. Step 6. Final determination. Closing the case on his likely fertility. But wait, even if the sperm density and motility under the microscope are absolutely perfect, the puzzle isn't complete without the ultimate real-world test, the assessment of libido and serving ability. A male is completely useless for natural breeding if he locks the drive, or if a physical deviation prevents him from successfully achieving a normal erection, intromission, and ejaculation. We literally have to watch them work to be completely sure. Which brings us to our overall determination. As our source material explicitly notes, the examination determines whether a male is likely to be fertile, but it absolutely cannot guarantee it. Because of massive insurance policies and legal implications surrounding these high-value animals, the veterinarian is providing a highly educated probability based on a snapshot in time. It is not an absolute lifetime guarantee because, as we know, biology is always in flux. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If fertility really is a continuous variable, and we've just seen how unbelievably sensitive the reproductive system is to everything from foot pain to a sudden change in diet, what unseen factors might shift an animal's fertility tomorrow? Given how delicate this biological balance is, it really shows just how constantly we have to monitor and manage these animals to ensure peak performance. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the science around you.